are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
Greetings and welcome to another edition of Free Association Radio. I'm Robert Phoenix, and it is Friday, the 27th of May, and we are in the sign of Gemini. That's right, Gemini, duality, polarity, the twins, social schizophrenia, the split between man, woman, left, right, black, white, you name it. Duality is the order of the day, and it will be for the next 23 days. And we're going to be talking a lot about Gemini today because Gemini, duality, polarity, they're all part of the plan here on Terra, and to keep us divided, to keep us separated, to keep us conquered. And part of the latest and most recent experience in division between people, and then the run-up of a new unification, of course, is 9/11/2001, and we're entering into a really interesting territory astrologically with 9/11 because of where Pluto was at the time that 9/11 happened. It was at 12 degrees Sagittarius, and here we have Pluto in Sagittarius retrograding and going back over the Pluto for that event. And we'll go over it one more time. And there's no sort of questions or doubts as to why this is, what's happening and why it's occurring. There's a lot more chatter around 9/11. And it's being driven really by Donald Trump. We're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about Trump's role in it and what he is doing, either inadvertently or directly. The conversation is rising to the surface, and the Saudis are being drawn into this and having to defend their position. Of course, this last week they said that it was engineered by the United States government. Now, this is a really fascinating turn of events because the Saudis are going to have to come clean. They've been playing ball. They played ball with the Bush administration. They had a few guys come on over here, take a few, ridiculous classes down in Florida just to justify the fact that they could actually do something like this, leaving a cookie trail. So they're complicit. They're totally complicit. But were they the people that actually staged this event? The answer is unequivocally no. Absolutely not. From the stand down to all the things that we all have come to know and love about 9/11, they are completely incapable of being that sophisticated and that covert. And yet, their name is being drawn out of that, of course, as part of Islamophobia. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into the astrological significance of 9/11. That's part of today's show and why it's coming about. We're also going to talk about some of the phenomena that's happening around the world. It's been a really crazy last couple of weeks. We've had killer bee swarms. We've had fireballs. We've had not just a swarm of killer bees, we've had a swarm of quakes all through the Pacific Rim area. Now, if you go back in time and you look back on when I talked about the solar eclipse that happened in the Pacific Rim region, and I said that there would be earthquakes, there have been not just one earthquake, but a number of earthquakes, very disturbing, and they've all happened in the aftermath of that major solar eclipse, which happened in the Pacific Ocean, right around the Pacific Rim. No mistake about that. Absolutely no mistake. And we've got one more series of eclipses coming up in September. September, by the way, is going to be a hot, hot month on so many levels. We've got the Mercury retrograde. We've got the solar eclipses. It's going to be a big deal. A lot, we're getting ready for what they call October surprise in September. But before we get to September, we've got to get through July. We've got to get through 4th of July. We've got to get through both conventions, which are going to be just absolute Barnum and Bailey sideshows. I mean, hold on to your seats when you see both of these conventions. Because when it looked like that the Republicans were going to have a split convention and that Trump was going to have to fend off his rivals, well, it's looking really like it's going to be Hillary Clinton who might have the split convention and fending off her rival, Bernie Sanders. We've never seen anything like this before. And, I don't care if people say it's all staged. I really don't. Perhaps it is, but there's got to be, let's just take this into account. Let's take this into account. That for all of this to be staged, that you would have to have literally thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people being given roles, playing parts, assigned dialogue. The beef between William Crystal and Donald Trump, is that fake? Are they just faking that? I don't think it's fake at all. Do you think William Crystal likes being called a killer and a warmonger? I guarantee you he does not. So there's something going on here. The fabric is unraveling. It is unraveling. The sort of civilized due process, the snore fests of previous elections and election cycles are completely and utterly out the window. They are in a rear view mirror. They're in the rear view mirror. These are absolutely fascinating times. They're dangerous times. They're catalytic times. They're powerful. They're transformational times. If you can understand this and understand the energy that's snap, crackling, and popping right now, it is available in your life. Let me tell you. Now, overall, the picture does not look great. I'm going to be honest with you, okay? I'll be really honest with you. The annual Uranus and Aries, the weekly Uranus and Aries report, I'm just going to give you one each week. And this is about automation, and this is about AI. Adidas, I put this up on Facebook, Adidas announced that they're coming back to Germany. If I had a sound effect, it would be the sound effect of the Germans kind of rallying and giving Hitler a sound of applause at Nuremberg, right? When they had not just the Nuremberg trials. The Nuremberg trials, of course, were done on the same place where Hitler had his great rallies. So I would cue that up because obviously it'd be geocentric. It'd be wonderful, right? But guess what? Adidas is not coming back with workers. They're coming back with robots. Robots are now going to make the shoes. Why? Because the human robots, the human drones in the South Pacific have become too costly. Imagine that. See, this is what happens when you try to flatten out the global economy. When you try to make the U.S. economy shrink, and you try to raise the standard of living in other economies in the South Pacific, Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, the Philippines, Maldives. These are where all these factories have been relocated. Bangladesh will slowly but surely, guess what happens? Even at a slave wage, people get more earning power. More earning power. And the corporations are just waiting. They are just horny for their automated replacements to be perfected so they can eliminate even the most Spartan production costs. Because all it's going to cost for a company to have automated workers is the purchase price of the equipment and then maintenance. That's it. Purchase price and a maintenance contract. It's like buying a copy machine. Remember back in the days, you go to a store, I guess you still do this, you go to Kinko's or whatever, but they used to have copy machines in places like 7-Elevens and offices. They still have copy machines, but the whole thing has been replaced by printers and scanners, and it's a whole different world. Anyway, you'd buy a copy machine and you buy a service contract. And that's it. When you buy the robots, you'll buy the service contract. Initial investment, and then you have a partial investment, which is the service contract. And those robots are working for free. Now, do you think Adidas is passing along the savings? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You are not getting any benefit from them having robots make your really cool Adidas. None whatsoever. So this is why it is not going to get easier. I'm sorry. I'm just telling it like it is. I may sound like a broken record, but Uranus and Aries, just wait. Uranus and Taurus comes out. All the R&D stuff is happening now, right? They're fleshing it out. Literally, they're fleshing AI out. And then when Uranus and Taurus comes into play, guess what? It's going to be implemented in manufacturing, physical, manual labor. You're going to see all these service jobs at fast food restaurants go away. They're going to go away. Adios. And they'll be replaced by these kiosks. And then it'll be interesting to see what the social justice warriors or the social Marxists will demand at that point. Will they demand that they get their jobs back? I mean, right now the demand is for a $15 an hour burger flipping job. Those jobs were never meant to be $15 an hour jobs. Those jobs were set up for kids. Kids, part-time work, go to school. But guess what? Those jobs became occupied by migrants, refugees, illegals, whatever term turns you on in terms of your lexicon, your politically correct lexicon. These are the people that came in and took those jobs. Why? Well, because they were happy. They were happy to have a job that was paying them $8 an hour or $7 an hour, whatever they pay, in order to take your order and then fill up your Coke cup and spit in your secret sauce. That's who took the jobs. And you get a kid, and guess what? The longevity of those workers, think about that. The longevity of those workers, I would say the metrics were, and these guys at corporate, they look at all this stuff. They know what's happening. They're not turning a blind eye to the fact that they've got, 8 times out of 10 undocumented workers working at their fast food joints. They know that. They also know that those people are grateful for that job, and they're not going to be running off to college anytime soon. They're not going to be running off to upgrade from McDonald's to Starbucks. They're not. That's, by the way, that's where the college and the high school kids migrated to. They migrated to Starbucks. That's where they are. They're not in the fast food world anymore. So you get less turnover. Of course you're going to support this worker class. And they've got all these deals in place at a high level. They're paying off ICE, they're paying off Congress, they're paying off the Senate. It's good for business, blah, 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 blah. But those workers are going to go away. And what's going to happen when they go away? They're competing now with the new migrant class. They're competing now with the new illegal aliens, although, of course, the robots aren't illegal. They'll be licensed. They'll be just fine. Absolutely just fine. Here's a novel plan. Here's a novel idea. Okay? Check this out. People say, well, what can we do? Well, let's give the robots an identity. Let's give the robots a social security number. How's that? Yep. Let's give them a social security number and let's put them on the books so that they have taxable income. How about that? Do you think McDonald's and Wendy's and all these people that are, hot and horny for their robot workers will agree to that? Of course not, because they get to dodge all of that. They get to dodge workers' comp taxation. This is a fucking dream come true for them. But if you want to stay ahead of the curve, you've got to, so then the whole debate comes, well, they're not really individuals. Can they really get a tax ID? And if they've got a tax ID, well, then what rights do they have? Now we get into the whole, do you see where this is going? I mean, it is very complicated, but I'm telling you right now, some guy out there who's a congressman or a senator who's got, half a watt between his ears will figure this out. And he will figure out a way to tax robots. And now all of a sudden corporations are going, oh, gee, I don't know now. It might be cheaper if we actually employ Maria instead of the Matron 2, the Matron 2.0. Yeah, Maria over the Matron 2.0. We're saving annually about $175 a year on Maria across the board. That's going to be about a $350,000 savings cost. Let's go with Maria versus the Matron 2.0. I'm telling you, we can get ahead of this thing, but we're going to have to find a way for them to not be able to leverage basically a zero-sum net profit for them. Because when I say zero-sum, meaning that they don't have to go into any kind of debiture around their workforce. It's all going to be plus. It's all going to be on the plus side. And the profits that they'll accrue are tremendous. Now, there's a bigger story here. It's what's going to happen because we can't stop this. It's coming. It is coming. The Robot Express, AI, it is coming. So we're going to have to figure out how to manage it. And you manage it with money. You manage it with taxes. You manage it with fees. Hell, that's how we're managed. Why should robots be any different? Am I right? Am I right? Cost out a net wage for the robots and tax it. If it's a kiosk, you tax it, just like you would tax a human. Now, if some guy gets his shit together, or a woman gets his shit together on Capitol Hill and figures this out, all of a sudden big business is going, whoa. You can't do that. You can't do that. Robots aren't human. Well, I tell you what, neither are corporations, and yet they were granted the same rights. A corporation is now a human. Check it out. Do your Google search. So if they can make a corporation a human, it's an entity. It is an artificially created entity. And by the way, a lot of people don't know this, but corporations were created. They were created during the WPA, Roosevelt's WPA, the work progress, right? And what they were created for was a short-term benefit so that businesses could interact with and build with the federal government and get tax breaks. Because they needed businesses. They needed, of course, the Rockefellers' businesses, or they needed the J.P. Morgan's businesses, or they needed whoever the businesses were. Standard, whoever. Those businesses theoretically needed tax breaks. so that they could mobilize very quickly, bring the workforce together, employ people, and then have this. In a lot of ways, the WPA was great. I mean, it built out the infrastructure of the country. And people back then had a work ethic. I'm sorry, today people don't have work ethics. Everything's been given to them. You go on the internet, it's been given to you. I'm sorry, it just has. And the opportunities for kids to have these jobs, I'm sounding like an old fart, by the way, but they're gone. You remember when I was a kid, I used to walk around my neighborhood with a lawnmower and a rake and an edger. And I would go door to door and I'd ask people if they want their lawns mowed. If they said yes, I'd mow their lawns. If they said no, I'd go on to the next house. That's what I did. That's what I did to make money. You think kids do that now? No. They don't walk around. Here's what happens. At least here in Texas, from what I've seen, if there's a lawn to be mowed, it's mowed by the man of the house, generally. But if there are lawns to be mowed in the area, they're being mowed by migrant workers, people from Mexico. They come in, they do everything very quickly, and they charge a monthly rate, and it's done. So there you go. I mean, I suppose a kid could do that, but now they're competing against a different workforce. What about paper routes? I had a paper route. Do kids do paper routes anymore? No. Do people even get the paper anymore? No. But if they did, who's delivering the paper? It's a guy, generally, who has a morning route and it has it in conjunction with another job and drives around in his, little Toyota pickup checking papers out the window. That's even if he has a gig. So, we have a whole cross-section of kids that they don't work. So some people say, well, work's fine. What good is work anyway? It's outdated. Let's get beyond work, the whole notion of work. I don't really have a problem with that, but at some level, we're going to have to figure out this resource thing. Because if you're not working, if you're not accruing money or resources, unless you're on a government roll, and by the way, they are actually talking about putting people in Sweden on a $2,500 a year government roll. I'm sorry, $2,500 a month government roll. You could probably live on that. But where's your aspiration level going to be? There isn't going to really be one because you're kind of taken care of on some level. Tranquilized a little bit, your needs marginally met, just slightly above the comfort level, just slightly above it. You have a whole worker class that is anesthetized, somnambulized. This is what the government will basically roll out at some point if they continue with this model. But that's just a stopgap. And what will happen? What will happen with the whole robot economy? Well, there'll be a boom. I've talked about this before. There'll be a boom. There'll be all these companies competing for automation. So the building of the automation, the building of the robots will create a boom. They may build them overseas. That's a distinct possibility. But if they build them here in this country, you'll have a boom. It'll be like another bubble. It'll be the AI bubble. People will be happy. Oh, look at this, look at this, look at this. But then that'll go away. Because once that initial boom takes place, now we're back into kind of a service-oriented economy. But in this instance, we're just servicing the robots. And at some point, the robots will service themselves. I know it sounds paranoid. I know it sounds, 1950 sci-fi, but I'm telling you right now, it is coming. So if it is coming, then we've got to have something else to replace that. And I've said it before, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to roll out the free energy or the close to free energy, because if we're not going to be working as much, we're going to need to be creative. We'll need to be creative. And if that's not going to be institutionalized at a societal level, then what we'll have to do is we're going to have to get into this maker economy. And there might even be some really interesting collaborative possibilities for humans and robots in a maker economy. I wouldn't rule that out. I would not rule that out. Because at the very least now, you're having a collaborative relationship with something that might be able to help you do something better, or kind of advance whatever technique you are trying to learn. I don't have a problem with that. I think it could be interesting. See, I'm not a total Luddite. What I have a problem with is the top-down implementation of an automated workforce that is artificially intelligent. We got into that wasn't a really good debate, but we started talking about this on Facebook the other day. And one of the things that we talked about is the whole idea that the planet is run by a massive supercomputer. And I've been talking about this for a while. I talked about it to Jay Widener, and Jay's kind of picked up on the idea. Maybe Jay has his own idea. I don't know. But now Jay is talking about it, and I believe it's true. I believe the elites are taking orders from a massive supercomputer. That is the beast, by the way. And I believe that it's connected to CERN. And this whole Hadron Collider deal, the God particle, all that stuff, yeah, they're doing that. But I really think CERN is the backbone and the spine for a massive supercomputer. And that supercomputer, by the way, I believe has become sentient. It has already experienced a singularity. And maybe, just maybe, it might be a strange blend. And we're going to get real far out there now. A strange blend of artificial intelligence and interdimensional influence that maybe this computer, this beast, the singularity, the sort of the proto-singularity avatar has become conscious and is interacting. There's a movie with Johnny Depp where this actually occurs. Johnny Depp, by the way, Johnny Depp got dumped by Amber Heard. Bad run for Johnny Depp, I gotta say. I know it's gossip, but one of the Illuminati's poster boys got kicked in the nuts. His little millennial girlfriend that he met on Rum Punch dumped him after his mother died. How about that? Johnny Depp's mother dies. He probably goes into a severe depression, and he's not the cool character of from the Pirates of the Caribbean, Jack Scarecrow, or whatever his name is, that Amber Heard used to watch when she was a little girl. No, he's not that anymore. He's human, and he's probably taken on an enormous amount of darkness. Enormous. And she just does not want to be around it. Divorce. Headed for divorce. Not sure why he wanted to marry her anyway. But I'm not in Johnny Depp's head. But he plays a character. He's a scientist who's working towards a singularity. He gets killed. Well, he doesn't get killed. He gets wounded. Mortally wounded. And the only way that he can survive is if they upload his consciousness into this massive supercomputer that takes over the entire planet. Now, getting back to this idea of the beast, it would seem to me that through the ability to quantum compute, I would say thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of scenarios, game theory, as to how this reality could unfold, how even people that are unpredictable, because that's the one thing that humans have, is their unpredictability. That they can run so many models in so many variant themes and unpredictability that they can run out scripts, reality scripts. And this is where I think the sort of the architecture of the planet at a high level is taking place. How it gets rolled out on kind of a day-to-day basis with individuals, that's another story, because they're human and they will mess up, trust me. But when the robots are in place, they won't. I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound conspiratorial paranoid, but this is where we're going. The other thing, this is another disturbing Uranus and Aries piece here. Let me see if I can do this. I'm going to play some music, and I'm going to go out, and I'm going to, what's this? My kid just sent me an email. Hold on a second. I'm going to play some music, and I'm going to find you something, and I'm going to play this for you. This is on. I saw this week, and it's about a 5-minute clip, and I'm going to tell you what's coming next. So let me get into the show panel here, and let me play you a little bit of music. What do we want to hear? I got to play the Dictators. Since we're talking about AI, robots, let me go back into my punk rock days with Handsome Dick Manitoba, Ross the Boss, Andy Chernoff. Let's do a little Science Gone Too Far. All right, so here we go. Here's the Dictators. I'll be back in 3 minutes and 27 seconds. You're listening to the Friday FARcast, Science Gone Too Far. And what I'm about to play for you might be an indication that science is on the doorstep of going too far. This is the story of a man who thought it would be really cool to pay for everything with a chip in his hand. It's about 4 minutes long. I want you to check in on this, listen to this, follow along, and you're going to get a real sense as to where we're headed with everything. Here we go. This is from BuzzFeed, and the title is, I Ditched My Wallet and Ended Up with a Chip Implanted in My Hand.
Like you just literally put your hand up, and you're good to go. Like, that's crazy. Hi, my name's Charlie Warzel. I'm a senior writer with BuzzFeed News, and in order to see what the future of money looks like, I decided to live for a month just paying for things with my phone. And somewhere along the line, I ended up getting a microchip implanted inside my hand to see if I could be the first person in the world to pay for something out in the real world using just their hands. I basically wanted to try to download as many apps onto my phone as possible and make sure that I could use alternative currencies and try to skirt cash or credit cards any way possible. Using your phone as a payment method, we call that a proximity mobile payment. And we estimate that by the end of 2016, U.S. adults will spend $27 billion using their phone at the point of sale. But you look at that in the context in card volumes, I mean, that's a pretty small drop in the bucket. Hey, do you guys accept Apple Pay or any of like the card reader things for your phone? Can't buy anything here, right? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. When you're only using your phone to pay for things, you find that you're sort of pushed to two extremes. Really big chain stores or really small, niche, kind of overpriced coffee shops and places like that. A couple weeks into my experiment, I ended up going to Sweden. Sweden happens to be way far ahead of the United States when it comes to getting rid of cash. I ended up meeting with some people who are really active in the biohacking community and found that you could actually implant an RFID NFC chip in your hand.
So take a deep breath for me and exhale.
And so I figured if I could put it in my hand, maybe I'd be able to pay for something with my hand.
That was it. Breathe.
Yeah.
Keep breathing.
How does it feel? It's like pinchy. It definitely hurt like way more than they said it was going to. It looks sort of like a grain of rice or like a pill that's in my hand. I think the idea of using a microchip implant in one's hand to be able to make a payment, I do question the mainstream application of it, but I really think there might be other ways where that might come to fruition, not necessarily through like surgical implant, but through other kind of integrations with the body. So once everything's healed, I decided that I needed to start focusing on how to make this chip work, and I really wanted to become the first person to ever pay for a meal at a restaurant with their hand. Eventually, I stumbled across a Venmo engineer who said that he could help me with my task. What they decided is that they would put my Venmo unique user ID onto my chip, which would basically make it so that any phone would recognize my hand as a Venmo app.
I'm going to write your secret token for Venmo.
You're going to go up there. They're going to scan your hand, put how much we owe. That's it. Here we go. So you're good to go. That was so sick, dude. That's amazing. Yeah. That was insane. We actually accomplished what we set out to do, and I kind of couldn't believe that it was ever going to happen. Like, I thought I got this thing jammed in my hand for nothing. My hand is paying for everything today. If the wallet is here, and your phone is sort of a healthy middle ground, something like the chip felt to me like the furthest possible extreme of, futuristic technology.
The challenge with mobile payments is that, especially in the U.S., it's so easy to use cards.
After doing this experiment, I would bet that in about 10 years, it's kind of abnormal to carry around a wallet that's just stuffed full of cash. That's insane. Paying with the hands. What's next? Paying with the foot?
There you go. This guy is the editor of BuzzFeed, the tech editor of BuzzFeed, and he thought it was just be such a really cool thing to get a chip implanted in his hand. Where did it take place? Sweden. Do you know what also took place in Sweden? The very first sex change. Christine Jorgensen, the very, very first sex change operation. Here we have the biohack, as he calls it, the biohack, and having the chip inserted into his hand. Look, again, unapologetically, I am old school. I just don't understand. I have not been seduced by technology that much to think that it's that cool. Okay, so when we talk about the advancement of this idea, what are we talking about? We're talking about convenience. And I have always said that convenience is the Antichrist. Convenience is the Antichrist. This is really convenient. Did you hear what he said? He said, well, with a phone, you're really stuck between, the high-end chain stores or the real small-end, low-end boutique. You just can't use your phone everywhere. Give me a fucking break. Do you have to? Do you have to? You know what happens if you lose your phone? Oh, gee, you can't lose a chip now, can you? There is a real selling point. So we have two ways of advancing this idea of science going too far. As far as I'm concerned, I've been really kind of, out front about what's happening to Europe. I've been out front. It's like you're bringing in sort of this, this other class, this other group, the migrants, the refugees who are wreaking havoc, and it's all planned and staged. These people are not Syrians for the most part. And if they were, why aren't they going to Saudi Arabia, Saudi Arabia has plenty of space. Trust me, they have plenty of space. Why don't they go there? Question mark. Why don't they bring them back into Iraq? I mean, Iraq has been devastated. Let's throw some more Brown Root Kellogg money. Let's throw some more Sperry Rand money, some more Bechtel money, some more Carlyle Group money over in Iraq, and then make a whole new refugee city in Iraq. Why don't they just do that? Oh, no, they don't, because there is an agenda behind what's happening in Northern Europe. Trust me, we've talked about this before. Barbara Spector, right? Barbara Lerner Spector, however you say her name, just blatantly talks about it. But I'm thinking now, after seeing this and seeing some of the attitudes, that maybe this is what Northern Europe deserves, or Western Europe deserves. Maybe they deserve this. I'm sorry, but if they're willing to go down this path, and biohacking, it's mildly interesting. Basically, the idea is, you're given this body. Why do you have to accept what you've been given? The problem is that it is all physical. It is not about dealing with the spiritual potentiality and and amplifying and upping your vibration, because that would take work. That would take work. That would take some form of process and focus, meditation, yoga, diet, right? You'd have, devotion, connecting in, getting higher and higher and higher. And as you do that, what happens? The scales of the world fall away. They become less important. You just realize that the body is just a body. It is just an earth suit. And maybe that's what they're thinking. It's just an earth suit. I'm going to do whatever I want with it. But it's an outside-in approach. The biohack is an outside-in approach. What about the spirit hack? This is what I'm talking about. And this is what's wrong. This is what's happened. This is where everything is turned upside down. So maybe this is what Northern Europe deserves. And maybe this wave of, hypersexualized, testosterone-driven, perhaps even demonically possessed hordes are the shadow that Europe has been denying for the last 35 to 40 years, since World War II completely traumatized the entire continent. And their inability to deal with the shadow and to deal with their own form of social manipulation has brought this, unto them. I'm not condoning it. I'm just giving you another way of looking at it. The biohack, it's all outside in. It is not inside out. And so we have this guy, Charlie Waller, walking around with an RFID chip, and he's saying, "Ooh, isn't that cool? Ooh, isn't that cool?" I have a new name for getting the RFID chip in your hand. It's called the hand job. Get the hand job. The beast. He's a forerunner for the beast. He's already connected into the beast. The beast is already here. Okay, I'm going to play you another thing. And let me see if I can find it here on the fly without having to play any music. Let me just see if I can do this. Okay. This is about a mother. Hold on a second. Let me just do this. This is about a mother who wants her child microchipped. Okay? I'm going to play this for you. So this is where we're going. This is where we're going. On the one hand, you have the Charlie Wellers of the world. It's so convenient, man. Pretty soon you'll be able to talk through your hand, right? You won't even need a cell phone. You'll just put your hand up to your face because the cell phone will be embedded in your hand. And it'll all be voice activated, right? Call Jermaine. Brrr. Brrr. You won't even need a cell phone anymore. It'll all be in the hand. Isn't that intriguing? You get to open doors with your hand, be like magic. So that's one version of it. The next version of it is that's convenience, and the other is care. The other is care. The care, by the way, is the same socially and psychologically motivated emotion that drives vaccines. I'm going to play this for you. This is from a couple weeks ago. It's a mother in Florida. And get ready. Here we go. News Channel 8. I'm going to cue this up as soon as I can. Bring it online. Here we go. This is Stephanie Rodriguez Neely. She's a mother, and she's talking about why you should microchip your child. Here we go.
And guys, this is what we're talking about, the microchip. I don't know if you can see it in my hand. It's the size of a grain of rice, very, very small. And the expert that we spoke with actually tells us that barcodes were introduced in the late 1960s, and back then people thought This is way too invasive and too weird, and now barcodes are so commonplace that we don't even think about them anymore. The expert tells us this will happen sooner rather than later.
Well, and Mel, you said that the technology's been around since the 90s or whatever, but, I mean, have companies actually tried this? That's a different scenario.
Two of them, as a matter of fact. Both of those companies ended up going defunct. They tried initial public offerings. It did not go through, but you can bet somewhere, someday, someone is going to pull this off, and we could see those microchips in everyone.
That's interesting to think about. Melanie Michael live in Tampa. Thank you for that report.
So there you go. It is based on convenience and care. Now, if you want to, you should look that broadcast up. Look that story up, because there are some things in the presentation of that story that if you have really sharp eyes and you have really honed in on and focused your discernment, your powers of discernment, you'll notice some things. You will notice some things. First of all, the way that the story is presented. Number one, the anchor woman is wearing what kind of a dress? A blue dress. The studio is awash in blue. The woman doing the story is wearing a blue dress. She starts the story off with a pair of chihuahuas. And I'm not talking about, her chest. A pair of chihuahuas. And so what do we see? Oh, the chihuahuas. Aren't they cute? It keys into a psychological and emotional place inside the head, which says, oh, yeah, look at those chihuahuas. They're cute. They go, we don't want anything to happen to those cute little chihuahuas. So then it takes us into the story. Blue is a color, it's been proven, that builds trust. If you go back to all that stuff with the Roanoke shooting in Virginia, that ridiculous shooting of the news and the news reporter and the cameraman, I mean, it was just ridiculous, utterly ridiculous, all drenched in blue. Blue, 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 blue. When they want to get your faith and trust bought into whatever it is they're talking about, blue is the color. If they want to overpower you and send you into trauma, it is red. Red is the color. Like Gloria Allred, right? Every time you see her, she's in red. Why? Because what she's doing with her clients is she is exacerbating their trauma. She's not wearing blue in order to gain your trust. No, she's wearing red to set off an alarm in your head that this is an alarming situation. So pay attention to the color schemes. The other thing is the way they frame the story. Comes in, mother of four, special needs kid. Apparently the kid ran off. Helicopters came in, they found the kid. Then comes in the dissenting view. Oh, it's too sci-fi. It's too, where do we stop? And it comes back to the mother. So the last words you hear are the words of the concerned mother who says, hey, if I choose to do this for my kid because I care, what is wrong with that? What is wrong with that? As a parent, I guess I understand it. My kid got lost. My kid got lost in the New York subway. How about that? Try that on for size. 10 years old. Lost on the New York subway. We're headed to the Museum of Natural History and Sciences. We're getting off the subway. He's right next to me. We're one of the last people to get off the subway. And just as we're about to hit the platform, the door shuts, and I turn and he's gone. He's gone. He's headed uptown. Now, uptown is not like what it used to be 30 years ago. Uptown is actually a pretty refined place now. A lot of money's been pumped into uptown New York, Harlem. It's actually a pretty cool place. But still, New York subway, parent, your kid's there, you're not. No cell phone. I went into panic. Of course I did. I'm a parent. What did I do? I sprinted. I sprinted to the station agent, and I told her, hey, my kid's on that train. He just took off. I knew exactly what he was wearing. We didn't have a plan. You got to have a plan. Should have thought of that. But now we've got a plan. Trust me. Where do we meet? At some point, I'm waiting around. She phones into the subway. I'm waiting around. All of a sudden, it's like, he's okay. I had this overwhelming feeling he was okay. And about 2 minutes later, he's walking through the turnstile with a woman who saw what had happened. She was pregnant with her husband. She saw what had happened. Took control, brought him back to the station, dropped him off. What's the moral of the story? The moral of the story is that there are more forces at work in our lives than we understand or know. And sometimes those forces can be tragic. And sometimes those forces can be absolutely angelic. And she was an angel, human angel, brought him back. And I think, again, we have to reinvest this thing that's inside out versus outside in. This is really what we're talking about here. I don't have a special needs kid. I don't know what it's like. I don't know. She's got 4 kids. I only have 1. But that was a choice on my part. That was a choice. There's also a choice not to vaccinate my kid, which cuts down the potential for him being a special needs kid. I'm sorry, it's true. But these are choices I made to sort of level the playing field a little bit. And in the end, they're basically selling this. Excuse me. And the guy sitting in his room, the expert, he's got a headset on. Who the hell is this guy? Basically telling us that it's all nice, safe, and warm and fuzzy. Who the hell is he? He could be anybody. And even if he's an expert, experts are paid. They are on the payroll of companies or lobbyists that want to forward the idea. All you have to do is go back in time and look at what happened as we were ramping up to go back into Iraq, which is going to be a good segue for us to talk about 9/11 after the top of the hour. You had these so-called military experts. And what were they doing? They were on the payroll. They were on the frickin' payroll, selling the war. You can't trust experts. When you hear an expert, you should probably run in the other direction. I'm telling you, it sounds paranoid, but it's true. Everything about that. And that just happened. By the way, 2 weeks ago, May 13th. Go look it up. Go watch it. Watch how skillfully they create this. Just watch it. From the disarming kind of image of the woman in blue, the blonde-haired woman in blue with the 2 chihuahuas. Oh, isn't that cute, the 2 chihuahuas? To the concerned mother. So what are we talking about? We're talking about comfort and concern. This is how we're going to get it, right? Comfort and concern. We're going to be hammered with it. And cash is going to go away. The wallet, the electronic wallet might be able to stop. Maybe it'll be the RFID card. I'm telling you, Uranus and Taurus it's going to be a game changer for money. Absolute game changer. Let's play a little more music, and then at the top of the hour, we're going to come back, and we're going to be getting into 9/11 and why things are happening the way they're happening, and what it means to the rest of us. Can we crack open? Can we crack open? Can we crack open the unsolved case of 9/11? Can we cut the Gordian knot? That's Porcupine Tree, synesthesia, feeling good, Feeling free. What would it be like to feel good and free all the time? Think about that. Think about that. Think if you could just feel free and nothing in the world could get to you. And you weren't an arrogant, smug prick about it. Yeah. That's attainment. That's where it's at. You know, there's no middle ground with freedom. You're either free or you're not. And there are very few people who are really free. I mean really free. From a psychological level, psychic level, spiritual level, materiality, boom. Free. Even the guys that are hanging out in northern India, right? The yogis of northern India, they're not really that free. And they've got to sit around with their alms bowl and hope somebody puts some stuff in there. You know, they're dependent. You know, they're dependent upon people filling up their alms bowl. So even if you opt out, you're not entirely free. There is an interdependent relationship in life. However, something internal can set you free. We're going to talk about 9/11, but before I do that, I just have to share something interesting. I don't know if Alex Jones has ever listened to my show, but he said something this last week which was almost word for word what I have said before on this show. Almost word for word. And it kind of freaked me out a little bit, to be honest with you. And the gist of it is, and I've been talking about, maybe he came upon this on his own. He's a smart guy. He's got, you know, he's tapped in. But I've been talking about this for a number of years now, and that what we're dealing with on Earth is a parasitic virus, an intergalactic parasitic virus that goes from world to world to world and just absolutely eats it up and destroys it. It is a parasitic virus that is held down by a certain group of people that have a certain frequency that are always tapping into how they can grow more powerful and thus rule and dominate over the resources of the planet. But in order to do that, they have to consume. They have to consume everything. Life itself, innocence, children, the environment. I've been talking about this for years. And when it's all said and done and the planet is just completely sort of chewed up and spit out, it's on to another world. And Alex was talking about this the other day, going on and on about it. Where have I heard this before? Oh, yeah. I know where I've heard it before. It's funny because he's been doing a bit of a metaphysical turn on his show. Anyway, you're listening to the Friday FARcast. I'm Robert Phoenix, and we're going to get into 9/11 now. We're going to talk about 9/11 and what's happening. So let's kind of break this down a little bit. We're going to get into the genesis of events and where this all started. It all started with Donald Trump taking on Jeb Bush. And he essentially threatened Jeb Bush. Now remember, Jeb Bush, and Trump is brilliant at this. Trump really gets to the edge and the fringe of conspiracy, and he's got so many people behind him now that he's being able to speak about this stuff with impunity. This is really interesting. Now, if he's merely a gatekeeper, which he possibly is, you don't know with the guy because he's got Sun-Uranus conjunction. He could be a total gatekeeper. He could be somebody who flips the gate wide open or shuts it down. But you go back with his interactions with Jeb Bush. Jeb is getting hot and bothered around Trump. And what does Trump do? Let's talk about 9/11. Let's not bring your brother into this. Because, of course, his brother, whoever that guy is, whatever he is, whether he's whoever that guy became. I don't know who he became. But I'll tell you, the guy that was the governor of Texas, ran the Texas Rangers, that guy is different than the guy who wound up in the White House. That guy was like two people. There was the evil, nasty fuck, and then there was the dim-witted, I'm going to pat Angela Merkel on her head, that dude. I'm going to pat whoever's bald on their head, that dude. I've referenced that episode of Star Trek where Captain Kirk gets teleported back up to the Enterprise, and they're in some kind of weird ionic storm or something like that, and he gets split into raging testosterone, sociopathic Kirk, and then the pathetic, docile, can't make a decision Kirk. That's who George Bush became. Anyway, he comes right after George Bush. We don't want to talk about 9/11, do we? Do we, Jeb? Do we really want to talk about what happened? Guess what? Not long after that, Jeb Bush is out of the election. Bails out. More money. He had more money in his coffers than anybody else. Locked and loaded, ready to take on Hillary Clinton, either be another Clinton-Bush ticket, and Trump. This goes right after the 9/11 piece. Now, that's where it starts. And now Trump has added in the whole kind of Muslim, Islamophobe thing, Pamela Geller, Daniel Pipes. It's safe. It is safe political territory for him. What's not safe is, hey, Israel did 9/11. That is not safe. That is not safe. Trump's talking about making Rudy Giuliani the head of Homeland Security. To me, that's covering. It's covering 9/11. He hasn't done it. He may be just talking about it. You never know with Trump. You just don't know what's going on with the guy and who he's going to name. He's taking Sheldon Adelson money now, though. That much we know. However, he's also talking about William Crystal, war starter, killer. That guy is a dyed-in-the-wool neocon. He's one of the guys that was the architect of 9/11. Hello? Do you see how close we're getting now with some of the language, some of the invective? It's getting very close. Trump is kind of circling around this thing. Now, the other thing that's coming up are these 28 missing pages of the 9/11 Commission's report. 28 missing pages. And now, check this out, the families of people that lost somebody in 9/11, there are people that died in 9/11. There are people that were in those buildings, and they died. They're going after Saudi Arabia because they're saying, hey, if the Saudi Arabians were involved, and this is what Trump is talking about, and maybe this is what the 28 pages are about, we're going to go after them because they made deals with the United States government. They signed agreements that once they got their payouts, they had to keep their mouths shut. But that does not preclude them from going after Saudi Arabia now. So what does Saudi Arabia have to do? Saudi Arabia has to say, well, he didn't do it. Now, they know who did it. Trust me. They know the House of Saud is connected to Israel. The House of Saud, through their bloodlines, are Khazarians. They are. They're Jewish. Look it up. They're connected to Israel. Now, they may not be Khazarians that came into Israel. They may be actual sort of Sephardim, but they're connected. They came into a region of Arabia and basically started to dominate the region. That's what happened. And this is where we have Wahhabism and Salafism. It all starts with the House of Saud. Anyway, they're going to have to defend themselves against these accusations. And they already have. They said it was the United States government. It just came out the other day. They're saying the United States government, did this. Now, here's what's going to happen. People are going to hear that and they're going to, oh yeah, of course. Blame our government. Fuck you. You dirty Arab. Blah, 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 blahs, right? That's where their head is going to go. Keep them out of our country. So, it is this kind of ongoing internecine conflict that is bringing up the Islamophobia. But we're getting very close now to this dialogue, because if indeed Saudi Arabia is being isolated, and they could, Trump is all about oil, he's all about coal, he'll reverse what Obama's done if he gets elected, if Obama doesn't steal a third term, which is possible. The Saudi Arabians need to be careful. They need to be careful. Because I'll tell you why. They will be replaced in the Middle East. They'll be replaced by another country. And that country is either going to be Erzatz Greater Israel or Iran, which has almost as much petroleum, if not more, than Saudi Arabia. Trump doesn't like the Iranian deal. He may recut it, whatever, if he gets elected. But we're having this dialogue now about 9/11, and it is starting to heat up. How long has it been? Well, 2001. We are now in 2016. So that's from 2001 to 2008. That's 7 years. From 2008 to 2015, it'll be another 7-year cycle. So we're in this new 7-year cycle around 9/11. And when you get into a new 7-year cycle, it's almost like you have to recommit to it. So here we are, another 7-year cycle, and it's coming back around again. And it's a Saturn cycle. All 7-year cycles are based on Saturn. But we're talking about it. Now, here's what's happening. People are waking up. I swear they are waking up right and left. They are understanding that the game is rigged. Elections are rigged. They may be swept along by the tide of populism, which can be a very dangerous thing. But if we've got this thing called the internet now, which is really kind of a, it is a wedge. It is a powerful tool. And so as people are being swept along by the populist tide, maybe they go onto the internet, 9/11, Saudi Arabia, 9/11, brrr, all of a sudden they get to see a very different rendition of 9/11 now. What really happened? Who was really in charge? Did those planes even hit that tower or those towers? And what happened in Shanksville? And what happened at the Pentagon? Everything is focused on those two towers. What happened in those other places? I'm telling you, there is chatter. There's big-time chatter astrologically. Let's see what's going on. Let's get into this. On that day, 9/11, 2001, the sun was at 16 degrees Virgo. 16 degrees Virgo. Do you know where Jupiter is right now? It's at 13 degrees Virgo. In a few short days, Jupiter will hit where the sun was in 2001. Do you know where Saturn was on that day in 2001? I'm sorry, Pluto. Pluto is at 12 degrees Sagittarius. 12 degrees Sagittarius. Do you know where Saturn is right now? 13 degrees Sagittarius. So what are we seeing? We're seeing this confluence of retrograde Saturn 1 degree away from where Pluto was on that fateful day in Sagittarius. Jupiter, 1 degree, was it 2 degrees away? Math again, one more time, hold on. 3 degrees away. I'll take that back. Jupiter's 5 degrees away. 5 degrees away. Pluto's still at 12. So Jupiter would have 5 degrees to go. Saturn moving slower, going backwards, will station. We're going to see Jupiter expanding on the day of that event. It will expand. It will come. It will bring that into our consciousness. Mercury's at 13 degrees. Jupiter's there, 13 degrees Libra. Pluto, 12 degrees Sagittarius. So we have Saturn retrograding. And guess what? We have a Saturn-Saturn opposition because Saturn was opposite Pluto during that time. Saturn was at 14 degrees Sagittarius. And so we've had this dialogue. I'm sorry, take that back. 14 degrees Gemini. Look at the symbol for Gemini. What is it? It's the Twin Towers. Just look at it. I mean, it's right there. It's freaking right there. Chiron was at 23 Sagittarius. Our wound, right? The collective wound with people in another country. But really, what's that country? Not Saudi Arabia. I'd say that right now. So Saturn is doing some really fascinating things. You know, it is in opposition. And remember, it's going to go backwards. It's going to retrograde. It retrogrades to 8, and then it moves forward again. And it's going to have to hit Saturn 14 one more time before it finally moves past that. It's going to have to hit Pluto at 12 one more time. So the elements are here. I'm telling you, the elements are here for this dialogue to take off. The challenge is Neptune, because we have the Neptune square that will be going on with Saturn. That is the fog. We have to cut through the fog. We have to cut through the fog of disinformation. But if we're going to get down and resolve this 9/11 thing, we have a few points in time, a few interstitial points in time. Right now and coming up through essentially the next 8 weeks, because that's when Saturn will begin to go backwards and forwards again. And remember, you know, Mars is retrograde. It's going into Scorpio. It comes back again. It will have one more pass through Sagittarius. And at 23 degrees Sagittarius, Mars will hit the Chiron in Sag of 9/11, which is at 23 degrees. Conjunct, wide conjunction the galactic center. So if we are going to cut through the Gordian knot, astrologically, this is the time. It is the time over the course of the next 6 to 8 weeks. This is a prime period, a prime time for the facts, for the dialogue, for the conversation, for potentially the truth to come through, because we can't move forward, I think, until we cut 9/11. It is the crime of the century. It is the crime and the heist of the century. And when people wake up, when they put their faux patriotism aside, and here's what's going to happen. People will feel like they're hoodwinked. And they're going to feel shitty because they believed it, that they bought in hook, line, and sinker. Now, the thing that people are going to have to get over is shame. I mean, we all have to get over it on some level. But they'll have to get over their shame, that they were taken, that they were fooled. But I'll tell you what helps with that, anger. Anger helps get you through shame around outside events, pushing through. Angry at yourself. You can be angry at yourself. How did that happen? How did I get taken in? Forgiveness could also be a real big thing around shame too. Because, I mean, let's face it, if you weren't in the trenches back then, if you had not been in the rabbit hole, I've been in the rabbit hole. I was in the rabbit hole. I said, we're fucked. I said that to my girlfriend that time. We're fucked. She didn't understand it. She had no clue. But I knew it was coming. I knew it. I thought it would be more dramatic at the beginning, but no. Look what's happened. Look at what has happened as a result of all of this. TSA, more wars, more involvement, drones, you name it. It gave us the pretext to be in the Middle East and North Africa to do nation building for the last 16 years. Meanwhile, our rights have gone away. Our privacy's gone away. But if you weren't in the trenches, If you hadn't gone down the rabbit hole, I don't blame you. Forgive yourself. Then get angry. Forgive yourself. You didn't know. Most people did not know. It hit them like that. Think about walking down the street, and all of a sudden somebody just hits you out of nowhere, right in the jaw. You don't see it coming. What's it going to do? It's going to stun you. It's going to traumatize you. And then let's say all of a sudden you see the person that did it, and it's a Catholic priest. And you're like, what the hell? You know? And it's like, oh, my son, I did it for your own good. The good Lord told me to give you a right cross to the chin. I'll wake you up a bit. Oh, okay. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? Well, just believe in the Holy Trinity and come to church. It'll be just fine. Speaking of Irish, Sinead O'Connor's being held against her will. Apparently, she was getting a little too close there with some of the things she might have been saying about Mr. Prince. So she's being held against her will. Just think about, though, people didn't know. If you weren't in the trenches, and why would you be? I mean, look, is it really fun getting down and pulling this shit apart and seeing how dank and how twisted and how perverted and how sick and how violent and vile this stuff is? You think people want to do that? Unequivocally, the answer is no. What would that do to their spirit? You know, even if they're Christians, like, I don't know, not for me. Place on my faith in God. Place on my faith in God. I don't have to look at that. You know, Lord Jesus Christ, Savior, He's going to lead me right through that. I mean, it's a pair of blinders. It is a pair of blinders. And maybe that's a good strategy. But I look at the church today, I'm like, boy, where are they leading you? You know? What exit on the freeway of love are they leading you to? Some frontage road down by the freeway where there's a van waiting. Right? I mean, maybe. I don't know. But I get it. I totally get it. But guess what? That effect can only last so long because, you know, people are getting swept up in this populist tide. And there's the internet, and there's the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Next thing you know, wow, this is not adding up. Who are these guys? Who are these dancing Israelis? What happened to them? Oh, they were jailed, and they were all let go, and now they're talking about it on TV show and, you know, talk show in Israel. I mean, oh boy, yeah, that's right. You know, it's out there. People are going to find out, and there will be a demand at some point. There will be a demand for the truth, and they will not settle on the Saudi meme. They're kind of there now. But the obfuscation with Neptune coming in, squaring off against Saturn, makes it a little bit difficult to work through. Trump, he's got his true node in Sagittarius, but guess what? I'm sorry, I take that back. He's got his true node in Gemini. Hello, 9/11, South node in Sagittarius. His moon is conjunct the South node. It is a massive, massive breach in the firewall of his chart. If there is anything that Trump could be assailed on, it is not what I would say the verities of small points of truth regarding his income, his taxes, his failed university, which, by the way, is South Node Sagittarius. No, it's going to be the high-level truth stuff. That is where his vulnerability is. And he may have to answer to that. And maybe the guy's got a plan. I don't know. You know, he's been taking people out right and left, and he is a full frontal assault with Hillary Clinton and through Bill Clinton. And every time, I've talked about this, every time you've seen somebody that he's had in his crosshairs, within a short period of time, they have left the race. They've dropped out. And Hillary Clinton is catching a lot of heat. A lot of heat through her. Bill Clinton has become a severe liability for her. Severe. Now you've got women that are starting to talk. They're coming out of the woodworks. And Hillary, I was watching MSNBC, Morning Joe, the Cup of Joe. That guy Joe has the same birthday as me, by the way, September 22nd. And Hillary's being very evasive about the emails and all that stuff. She's just digging a deeper hole, digging a deeper hole, digging a deeper hole. And he said, hey, she should just come clean. Now, the problem with coming clean is that it's a little late in the game. It is a little late in the game, and it could look very cynical. I'm going to come clean now because it looks like you got the goods on me. I'm trying to get elected. How do you justify that? You just don't. You can't. So she's got to keep doubling down and doubling down and doubling down. And the progressive liberal press is starting to turn on her. They're turning on her. And when she loses her constituency in the liberal media, she's fucked. She's totally fucked. And they said today that Trump's got all this stuff. He's punching her. He's punching her hard. And she has nothing to counterpunch with against Trump. Nothing. Nothing. She can't hit him. Yeah, he's got some dirt. Bankruptcies. Yeah, okay. What else? Trump University? Yep. Does she want to say that Trump knows about 9/11 and isn't talking about it? Try that one on for size. Oh, yeah, well, what do you know about 9/11, Hillary? Why don't you give us your version of it? She's taking a pummeling. Pummeling. And I would not be surprised if at some point very soon, now these guys think that she's not going to be indicted. Something is going to happen with Hillary, and I think she may wind up dropping out because the pattern has been set. Everybody that Trump has had in his crosshairs, they have dropped out at some point. Hillary might get sick. She might get sick. Because that's what happened, of course, after she left the White House. Oh, I've got an aneurysm. I can't talk. Isn't that convenient? I can't talk. And I'll get back to you when some of the heat dies down, and I've eliminated as many emails as I can on the server. Buy herself some time. She might drop out. You might wind up having a very contested Democratic convention. And don't be surprised if the pharaoh of the District of Columbia reinserts himself somehow. But the 9/11 piece is huge. We should not even be talking about the election. We should be talking about 9/11. This should be a part of the dialogue. And this is where it can really erupt in a really, hopefully, clean way. Come on, bring it on. We can't go forward. The last 16 years of this country, 15 years, it'll be 15 years, built on a lie. Built on a lie. A complete and utter reality fabrication. Reality has been refabricated based on that event. Plain and simple, end of story. And astrologically, it is lining up. It is lining up for the time. But the retrogrades, or the next 2 months, are critical in this whole story around 9/11. Now, what happens is, of course, the potential for something much bigger to occur. And all of a sudden, oh, here we go. We're off in another direction. Now we got to deal with this Zika virus. Who the hell knows? Who the hell knows what's coming next? Distract people away from really what's going on. And maybe it's the program of the supercomputer, the beast, that's rolling it all up. But I'm telling you, these next 2 months, hang on to your hats. It's going to be a ride. It's going to be a major ride. Not only that, we've got all this phenomena. We've got fireballs. We had a fireball that was witnessed on the East Coast a few nights ago. We've had swarms of killer bees. In California, super aggressive killer bees and wasps. You know, the insects are angry. We've had, again, multitudes of quakes, all happening around the Pacific Rim. The natural world is shuddering. Last night, I got to tell you, I saw the most bizarre lightning I have ever seen. It was rapid fire strobe sheet lightning without any thunder. Bizarre. And it went on for at least 20 minutes. And then after that, hurricane-like winds and a torrential downpour. Biblical. So the environment is also doing its dance here. We are in really interesting times, aren't we? A lot of power. There's a lot of power here. You're not a victim. You're not a victim. You know, the power is really indicative of the power inside all of us. That's what it's about. All right, why don't I just go through a little housekeeping, and then why don't we shut her down for today? That was pretty quality, don't you think? Hour and 40 minutes. I am getting ready to put the finishing touches on a teaching series. I have not been writing a lot on the website. Some of you may go back there from time to time. So when the hell is Robert going to post something? I've been working on video stuff. I only have so many hours in a day. You know, I wish I did have a clone. I only have so many hours in a day, but I've been working on a lot of videos. This is a teaching series for astrology, and you know, using astrology on an everyday level. We've got free stuff, we've got beginner stuff, we've got intermediate stuff, we've got advanced stuff. It's all coming in one package. I'm going to do pre-orders this weekend on my website. We're about 75% done. 75. We got labs. We've got me talking through things. Everything that I can basically upload to you, it will be available. Okay? Pre-orders are happening this week on my website. You're going to be able to get the following with a pre-order. You're going to get everything. You're going to get the whole package. You're also going to get a half an hour reading with me. That alone, I charge $88 for a half an hour reading. You're also going to get one seminar with me. One seminar, private seminar with a bunch of other people. It won't be public. You're going to get that. And if you have not gotten your natal charts and your natal reports, you're going to get that too. That's all for pre-orders. We're going to have 33 pre-orders available starting this weekend. 33. And after that, what will happen is that the free reading will drop off. That'll drop off. And the seminar will still be there. And we probably will have the natal chart and the natal report. But basically, you're getting an $88 discount. And you're getting the whole kit and caboodle as part of the pre-order. So think of it as an $88 discount. And that's going to be happening this weekend. The total cost for the reading, the half-hour reading, the natal reports, the charts, and the 1 hour free webinar. And by the way, that's not a one-off. That'll be a series of them. So every month, you'll be able to have like an hour with me every month talking astrology. It'll just be for people that buy the course, period. So the cost is $295, and that's what you're getting, everything. The entire course, the half-hour reading, the chart, the reports, and it's for a whole year. For a whole year, you're going to get free access, 1 hour a month with me in a private webinar environment. Well, I'll be talking about either astrology at the moment or a particular aspect or something going on. I think it's a great deal. I'm going to have the link up on the website. I'm going to work on it tonight. It'll be up there this weekend. So if you want to jump on it and be one of the first 33 people to order it, we'll put you on a list. And we're looking at a delivery date of the end of June. And that's minimum because we've got most of this shot. And edited, by the way. So it'll be the end of June. And how you'll receive your course is we will send this to you really simple on a thumb drive. You will get it. You won't have to download it. It'll be physical. We'll send it right to your physical address. This is the pre-orders. Once we get this up and running, we'll be selling these and distributing these off of a website called Gunroads. But for now, you're going to get this delivered straight to your mail on a thumb drive. You'll also get a PDF that has all kinds of handouts. So this is essentially what I do with people one-on-one, but what you're getting along with all the other things is you're getting the opportunity to play these videos over and over again. Over and over again. They'll be yours. So that link will go up probably late tonight, and it's for the first 33 people. That's what you'll get for $295. I'll be back on Sunday night, and hopefully we'll have the link up there. We'll do the Sunday night show. We'll roll that out. I'll talk about it, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more to talk about astrologically on Sunday night. And I'm going back to Colorado, and I'm going back there in a couple of weeks to meet with Regina, do another show. And, one of the things, by the way, that this will, enable me to do is it will enable me to kind of grow the business. And it is a bit of a business. And there are other products that I want to bring online, including some of my writing. So, by doing this and getting the courses and learning astrology, which I think is an essential art and science for where we are during these times, you'll be able to sort of, contribute to me being able to create more content and, put more out there. So if you've got any kind of altruistic aims around all this, you're doing that as well. Okay, so why don't I stop there and wind this sucker down. You know the drill. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. Oh, I wanted to talk about real quick 5 things before we go away. 5 things. Real quick, 5 things in order to really stay alive, stay happy, stay positive. Because we have to. We've done a 180. When we went into sort of the New Age cycle back in the 1980s, early 1980s, where it's all lighting up. David Spangler and all the new thoughts coming in. We really got into manifestation. We got into all these New Age strategies and techniques to begin to align our conscious thoughts with our unconscious motivation for the highest good. I mean, really, that's what it was all sort of boiling down to, whether it was Tony Robbins or some other practitioner. It's about magic, about aligning yourself with an internal technology inside your life. But what happened is during that time, we kind of went to sleep. We kind of went to sleep because we walled ourselves off so much that we didn't want to deal with anything negative. We didn't want to deal with anything dark. And that's why all these people appealed to us. And it was a time where there was some, what I would call tangential prosperity. There was money to do webinars and seminars. There's seminars. Learn this, learn that, learn this, learn that. So there was discretionary income. It was available. But what happened during that time is that the landscape changed, and people, we were so ingrained and focused on either our third eyes or our navels that we were missing what was taking place in 3D reality. And then, for me, a lot of this shifted during the 90s. So I was kind of ahead of a lot of, and I'm not bragging, I'm not, because I took the time out in the 90s. I literally took the 90s off, and I just immersed myself in this world. So what happened is now people are waking up because the economic imperative is starting to really get them. And the truth imperative is starting to get them. And some of the New Age stuff just isn't working anymore because there's pressure. There's pressure coming from other quarters of their life. So they've got to wake up. They've got to see what's happening. Well, now, we've gone into the darkness so much. We're trying to find the boogeyman. We're trying to untie these knots. How deep down the rabbit hole do you want to go? We know we can go pretty deep. But now we've got to change that. We've got to transform that. Without losing that awareness, we've got to realign ourselves with positivity while not necessarily discarding where we've been. We can't go back. I saw my father. He went down the rabbit hole, tried to go back. He died. Literally died. I know it's extreme, but it's what happens. You can't go back. So we've got to maintain a sense of positivity. Jesus said, you've got to live in this world but not be of it. We have to have one foot in this world. We have to have another foot in another world. And the other world is that world of dreams, aspirations, faith, a vision. Because without it, we're nothing. And so we've got to have strategies and techniques to keep us alive. Here you go. Here's 5 things to hang your hat on. Number 1, eat well. Eat well. I know it is really basic cliche. Trust me, eating well will change your life. Get rid of the shit. If you're going to go vegan, fine. Go vegan, vegetarian, fine. I don't care. Get rid of the shit. Go organic. Get rid of glutens. I don't care who you are. Get rid of glutens. Whether you're vegan, whether you're paleo, whether you are carnivore, omnivore, get rid of the glutens. It will speed up your digestive system, and it will throw gunk into an already compromised gut. Clean up your gut. That's all part of it. Eat well, clean up your gut, essential. Starting from the physical second house foundation. Next thing you can do, change your perspective. Change your perspective and learn how to change it fast. See what you have to see, experience what you have to experience, and flip a switch. Do not stay in a position that is toxic for a long period of time. Move through it. If it's a shadow, if it's an anchor or hook to your shadow, unhook it fast. Look at it. Deal with it. Whatever way possible. Find the technique. Exercise, yoga, prayer, meditation, boxing, whatever it is, by any means necessary, deal with it, move through it. If you have to let something go, let it go. Let it go and be merciless with the letting go. This is really important. This is about protecting your energy and your inner flame, and that is not easy. It's one of the hardest things. But if you can do it and master it and do it quickly, there you go. Frees you up. We want to be free. We don't want to have a lot of drag in our system. Third, do something nice for somebody on a daily basis. Sounds corny. Do something kind. Let's take nice out of it. Do something kind. Do you know why? If you do something kind, it has a trigger effect in the world. And it keeps you humble. It keeps you open. I have to learn this constantly. It's a lesson I have to reteach myself. Do something kind. Because you're doing it for that person, you're doing it for yourself, and you're doing it for another person you don't even know yet. Through our kindness, we allow the Holy Spirit of love to come through our lives. That's the third thing. Eat well, take care of your body, right? Move through any kind of toxic situation or hook as quickly as possible by any means necessary. Practice kindness. Practice kindness and compassion. It's essential. Number 4, patience. Practice patience. Be patient with yourself. Sometimes we can be so demanding. Jupiter and Virgo, expanding the demanding. Be patient. Think of yourself as at times, maybe not quite a child, but how you would treat somebody who might be a child. Maybe it's the child inside of you who's gotten wounded, and the parent comes and says, be patient. It's okay. Trust me. Allow for that inner parent, the divine mother and father, the holy mother and father to come in and say, patience. It's okay. So practice patience in a way. It's really tough sometimes. Really tough sometimes. And the 5th one here, if you can blend it all in, is have a sense of expectancy. And this is something, because if you go down the rabbit hole too long, you can get beaten up. And expectancy sort of drops down into kind of rigid practice pragmatism. I've got to be pragmatic. That's important. That is important. But living with a sense of expectancy is really important. And again, I'm relearning a lot of these things. I live with these things. This is how I live my life. In the 90s, early 2000s, that was how I was living my life. But as I went down the rabbit hole and I had to, go into these dark places and spaces, it's a tight fit in there sometimes. And every now and then, it's like when you're in Vietnam. You ever watch these Vietnam movies? People have to take off all their armature because it's hot. Go watch Platoon. First thing they do with Charlie Sheen, you don't need this, you don't need this, you don't need this. While you're stripping down for warfare. Speaking of warfare, I'm going to have Perry Eulander on my show next week. Perry's great story. I talked about him last week. Came to me, said, I've got this manuscript I've worked on. I turned him on to Richard Grossinger. Perry's got a book now, Walking Points. Go look at it, check it out, find it on Amazon. It's about Perry's journey in Vietnam as a draftee and finding spirituality. And, I've seen some of the reviews on Amazon, and a lot of them are very positive, but every now and then, here's a guy just smoked his way through Vietnam. You have a conversation with Perry Eulander, and you'll see what happened to him there. You'll see the person he became and the insights that this man has that'll blow your mind. Blow your mind. He is the Buddha of battle. He's going to be on my show next week, and you're going to want to listen to this conversation. Because Perry has stories that'll flip your wig. Not just stories that are in his book, but stories about what happened. I don't want to break the perfume bottle yet. But just listen. Check in next week with me and Perry. So those are 5 things. 5 things. Treat your body well. Sleep, eat, exercise. Move through your toxic states as quickly as possible. Whatever they are. By any means necessary. You know what's available to you. You've got tools. If you don't have them, find them. Be kind. Be kind to other people. In doing so, you're being kind to yourself, and you're allowing the Holy Spirit to come in to every interaction. Loving Holy Spirit to come into every interaction in your life. Be patient. Be patient. Your deliverance is at hand. Trust me. We're getting very close, but be patient. And the 5th one, altogether, develop a sense of expectancy. That something good is going to happen, right? That's where we are now. Let's bring it in. Okay. Sunday night, we'll be back again. We'll be back again with the 11th house. Here is Philip K. Dick. You know the drill. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Have a great weekend.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu. Perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this. Such an impression is a clue that at some past time point, a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this, an alternative world branched off.